Do you ever notice how we plan, prepare, and try to predict everything, believing that we are in control of our lives? We make schedules, we build businesses, we raise families, we manage outcomes. We say things like, I've got this. And somewhere in the background, the universe smiles and whispers, do you though? Because the truth is, we never really had control. What we had was an illusion of control. I get it. Control is comforting. It gives our logical minds a sense of safety. But the moment life throws us a curveball, a layoff, a breakup, an illness, a global shutdown, that illusion shatters. And suddenly we realize how fragile all of this is. We don't control our jobs, our families, or even our next breath. Think about it. We only control how we show up. Control is the ego's favorite drug. It numbs our fear of uncertainty. But uncertainty is where the magic of transformation happens. So, what do we actually control? You don't control outcomes, you control the input, your thoughts, your words, and your actions. You don't control how people respond to you. You control how you show up. You don't control the future. You control this moment right here, right now. That's it. The present moment is the only real power that we ever have. So when we stop trying to micromanage the universe, we create space for something greater to unfold. Control creates stress, and surrender creates flow. Think back to a time when life didn't go according to plan. Maybe you lost a job, a relationship, or your health took a turn for the worse. And it felt like your world was ending. But now, when you look back at that moment, months later, years later, you realize that was actually the beginning of something beautiful, something better. Let me share a few examples. How many people do we know that have gotten a health diagnosis from the doctor and they start taking charge of their health? They improve the way they eat, they move their body better, they're working on their mindset. That one thing that made them lose control over their plans for their life and their health made them make a shift in their life that was for the better. How many people do we know who lost their jobs during COVID and ended up starting businesses, right? I personally know a few who did that. And now they have thriving businesses and they look back and COVID, which was a completely out of control experience for so many of us, was the beginning of it, right? And yet we chase after this idea of control. It's scary, right? Losing control can be scary, but that space, that uncomfortable, like emptiness, that's what becomes the doorway for us to launch into the next version of ourselves. Sometimes you end a relationship and you think back and you're like, if I didn't end that relationship, I wouldn't have made room for something better to come in. When life throws us these curveballs, we have opportunities to grow into a better version of ourselves. So then, can we look at losing control as a gift and not something to be terrified of? Right? How many people do we know that live in fear of, God forbid, something goes wrong? And we are so conditioned to do this that sometimes when things are going well, we start to worry and wait for that shoe to drop, right? We're like, something's going to go bad because everything's going so good. So we just won't accept uncertainty as a way of life, whereas everything in life is uncertain. We don't know if our jobs will be there for us. We don't know if our family will be there for us. We don't know if we're going to be in good health to enjoy retirement. We don't know any of those things. And yet we walk around with this illusion of control that is going to make us feel like, oh, we have this figured out. We have a plan. We have a 401k. We have this, we have that. How many people do we know who have suddenly had changes in their life that took all of that away? Right. And I'm not trying to paint a dark picture for you. All I'm trying to do is make us aware of the fact that losing control can be life's way of guiding you back to your center, right? The caterpillar, for example, doesn't control when it becomes a butterfly. It just surrenders to the transformation and allows it to happen when the time is right. And sometimes when we're trying to control things too much, the universe will come in, swoop in, break our plans, and reveal our purpose to us. So let's not allow this illusion of control to take over our minds. Let's try and surrender, even if it's a little bit every day, because we don't have control. I always ask my clients this one question. If you knew that you were going to leave this earth in the next 5 hours, and you had 5,000 people sitting in an audience, and you had one message that you could leave them with, that they would then give to the rest of the world, or they would use to impact their own lives, what would that message be, and who would be in the audience, right? A lot of times I ask people this question and they instantly know what that message will be and that message will be for. But if I haven't asked them that question, a lot of times they're giving me random answers based on the illusion that they have control. But you take away that control and say you only have 5 hours to live, and you have 5,000 people sitting in the audience waiting to be inspired. What are you going to say to them? And suddenly the truth emerges, right? Control belongs to the mind. Evolution begins in the soul. So I want you to think about how you can make every moment count today, right now, right here. What is something you can go out and do today after listening to this episode that will be meaningful, that will be impactful, and not just something that you think you should be doing, something that means something to you, something that brings out the best of you, something that becomes your legacy. Can you imagine if we lived every moment like this was our last moment? Can you imagine what that's like? So I hope that this episode inspires you. Just think about where you might be letting the illusion of control take over, and how you might change your life if you knew that you had no control, right? And all that you can control is your thoughts, your words, your actions in this very moment. And then you do the same thing in the next moment, and the next moment, and the next moment, right? So I hope you have the courage to let go of that control and the grace to find yourself in the flow. You can't control how the story unfolds. You can choose how you show up.